I was 11 years old when I first read in the local paper about somebody who had cycled from John O'Groats to Land's End, and I had no idea where those 2 points were, but I can remember getting the car atlas out. There was no GPS in those days, and literally getting a highlighter pen and tried to join the top of Scotland to the bottom of England. And that was my first inspiration to go on a bike journey. My parents said I should maybe try something smaller first, so I got a friend, recruited a friend, and we cycled across Scotland, Dundee to Oban. So I just turned 12 when I did that. To be honest, I never dreamt that you could make a career out of adventure. For me, adventure was something I did as a child growing up on the farm. I was a big skier, a horse rider, a cyclist, all sorts. But then I was following a fairly traditional path until university. I read economics and politics and I graduated and I thought, right, I'm going to go into finance. But I still had these big ideas, this passion to go on some big expeditions. So I thought, oh, let's go for it once. Let's go as big as I can dream. And for that, it was pedaling around the world, 18,000 miles. And I went for it, I broke the record, I filmed it, which became a documentary. And after that, doors started opening. So I suddenly realized that if I kept doing this and not just pushing myself, but being a storyteller, being a filmmaker for it, I could actually make a career out of doing this. Well, the hardest part by far on any expedition doesn't need to be just cycling. In fact, it doesn't even need to be just sport. The hardest thing is getting to the start line. We all have good ideas, we all have grand plans, and we all decide, that word decide, all the time that we're going to do stuff. How many of us are actually in a habit of turning those decisions into action? You know, positive thinking's very good, but what you really need in life is positive action. And the hardest part in any grand plan, be it cycling around the world or any other dream, is actually having the confidence and the determination to get to the start, because that's when you face most doubt. That's when you're struggling to get things started. So getting to the start of these big projects is tough. It gets easier, but certainly when you're setting out on any path, on any career, it's just how to make that first dream a reality. That's the hard bit. The passion, for me, which is riding a bike, that's the easy bit. So most people are good at what they say they can do. It's about having the courage to see their ideas through. I've always been a cyclist, and the part of cycling which is hard to explain until you've experienced is you can go huge distances. It's a very efficient way of traveling, and yet you see, you hear, you smell, you experience everything on that journey. So yes, you can travel a vast distance by a vehicle, but it's a very sheltered journey. So that connected part of a journey, yeah, you can walk places, which is also very good, but in terms of the ability to actually cross countries, cross areas, and I don't think you really understand a country until you explore it under manpower. If you land in a place like a tourist does and then lives there and it compares it with home in absolute terms and then they fly back, then it's very hard to understand a country. Whereas if you were to pedal, but border to border, you don't see an absolute difference to where you're from, but you see it in incremental changes. You start to really see the world in terms of its similarities as opposed to its differences, which is what happens when you just fly into a place. So I'm a huge advocate for man-powered travel because you just get to explore a place in such an intimate way. And also the way the world meets you is very different when you're going there under your own steam. If you're walking or cycling somewhere, even if it's just around your own town or going out around the park, the way the world meets you, and it definitely smiles at you more if you're on a bike than if you're in a car. It's just, of course it's good for your health, of course it's good for your social life because it's a very inclusive activity, but I just think your view on the world changes when you're active, when you're pedaling yourself through it. It's very addictive. Most people who haven't cycled for a long time get back into cycling because they're either given a challenge by their friends to do an event, which is great, and that might kickstart the hobby again. Or, you know, they're worried about their shape, their health, their future, their longevity. And, you know, we should all be worried about how long we're going to live and how healthily we're going to live. So encouraging people to really take ownership for that and live active lifestyles. You know, it's an old cliche, but it's the most important thing for your happiness. You've got to be healthy, mind and body, and so cycling is one of the simplest ways of doing that. You know, you're not having to go out and participate in a organized sport. It's incredibly simple. You can just cycle to the shops. You can just, you know, build it into a part of what you're already doing in your lifestyle. With a bit of thought, cycling is probably the easiest sport to build into what you already do. So, and once you've got people back on the bike, you know, it's not something you need to encourage people to keep doing. It's just getting over all those sort of social and mental barriers, and just making it part of your routine, making it part of your lifestyle. And that's happening. You know, cycling is going through an absolute boom. It's going through a heyday in the UK, and long may it last.